Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County for Wednesday, February 21st, 2018. I am the Nighthawk, along with our studio director, Miss Elizabeth Malone. And on the panel, our regulars, my immediate right, the Duke, and on our far right, Super Dave. And before we get going, I just have to apologize, probably to you and the viewers out there, David. I got bit by fake news last week. Remember, I brought up the Jacoby Ellsbury imminent trade.
Yeah, that.
I bit that hook, line, and sinker. So of course, one of our regular callers called up and said, "Yeah, like, what are you smoking? That's not real news." And other than me catching that before I ran out to the studio last week, that was the end of it. So I guess it would be obligatory to talk about weather before we get into sports. I will tell you this, Duke. I had a great time in bed with my wife last night.
Good. Yeah, well, we won't go into the details.
We have a balcony right off the bedroom. So we opened the door for the whole night. And to get the fresh air
it was
in there
this
and
morning.
to hear nature and all that.
Chirping.
And I go, Donna, it really feels like we're in a different country right now. My whole mental attitude was great. Getting up this morning, the bathroom window was open and my office, everything was good. Went down to the road to the mailbox. Life was perfect. Then about noontime,
It turned to crap.
it's like, no.
I was in Burlington, just walking around Church Street. I just walked all over downtown Burlington. Had to roll up the sleeve on my flannel shirt, but yeah, it was kind of nice.
Well, I think we got it to what, 66?
69, I believe.
69 in Burlington?
Broke the record by 10 degrees in Burlington.
It was absolutely gorgeous.
In fact, last night was midsummer, as you kind of.
What time did you make it to work today?
10:30.
Oh, okay.
And but I hung around the house and I opened up all the windows and I let in the fresh air and it was just gorgeous. I put on a short sleeve shirt and then I went up into my office and when I came down, summer was over.
Yeah.
Because they said it was going to get cool this afternoon, but I thought it would at least last longer than it did.
Yeah.
But it was a nice little 4-day vacation, a 4-hour vacation, I should say.
In the extended forecast, for whatever it's worth, there's really no days with highs being under.
Tomorrow sounds like around freezing, but then up to about 40 for the next several days after that. Certainly no Arctic cold
and
inside.
not that I know anything about maple sugaring, but I'm guessing the lines were running today.
I would.
We have a call.
So, yeah.
Okay. Good evening. You're on the Best Damn Weather Show in Franklin County. Go ahead.
I was kind of impressed that you threw your doors open in your bedroom last night. That means you're running pretty hot still for a guy your age. I don't think I could have done that, quite frankly. But I want to ask you, how many of you read the 7 Days article on Skip Valley?
I have it. I haven't read it. I have it.
Oh my God! It's one of the best pieces of journalism I've read in such a long time. I mean, I haven't seen Skip in 35, 40 years. I remember covering him playing hockey at BFA St. Albans. He's one of the most tenacious, overachieving guys I've ever seen play hockey at BFA.
Leonard, it's funny. I can picture him. I can flash back and picture him playing hockey also.
Oh, I mean, I used to comment so many times about other players with much more ability. If they had Skip's head, they'd be something special. But none of you have read it?
No.
I heard people talk to me about it. I haven't read it.
Slam dunk. I mean, 7 Days just did such a great job. I mean, and they pulled no punches. I mean, Skip Valley picked the most liberal newspaper in Vermont to do a bio on him as he battles cancer and has been since May of 2017.
Didn't know that.
And it covers every aspect of his life. It took several months to put together. And it's so ironic that one of the most conservative figures in Vermont politics allows 7 Days to do an interview while one of the most liberal politicians we have, Bernie Sanders, would not acquiesce to an interview with 7 Days because he would not allow them to ask questions about his wife, Jane, in Burlington City College. I find that so ironic.
Yeah,
so ironic because 7 Days has one thing when it comes to stories. You don't set preconditions with 7 Days. They go in there with both guns blaring, and they'll ask the questions, and you answer them whether you want to or not. That's up to you. But you're doing yourself a disfavor if you don't read the article, because it is just one of the best pieces of journalism I've read in a long time. I mean, it pulls no punches. It gives Skip every opportunity to state his opinion, and one of the most classic pieces of the article was when he was just out of college and applied both to Senator Leahy and Senator Bob Stafford for a legislative assistance job, and Leahy did not get back to him. Stafford did. He took Stafford's job, and Leahy was asked in the article, what do you think might have happened had you hired Skip instead of Bob Stafford? He says, well, I don't know. He says, I wish I would have hired him now, and who knows what his politics would have turned out like. And I'll say this about Skip, he said, he's a front stabber, not a back stabber. So for somebody in Washington to call you a front stabber, that's about the highest degree of, goodwill I think you can say about anyone. Because one thing about Skip, he won't backstab you. You're going to know pretty much up front what the story is. And David, are you about his age?
Skip is the same age as my brother Jeffrey, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, you certainly remember it.
I do. I'm very, very good friends with his brother Tim, and we've coached together over the years, and we've had kids. The girls, my Nat and his daughter were on the same age group, and his last one, that's at BFA now, is the same age as my last one, Sam. So Tim and I, we talk all the time.
Yeah. Now, Leonard, you're right about Skip. He was a lunch pail, blue collar, hardest working BFA hockey player I have ever seen in my life.
Oh, I totally agree with you. There's no one that worked harder than Skip Valley.
A great two-way player, and his intelligence on the ice was second to none. And I believe he continued his hockey down in Williams.
He did, yes. He did.
And Williams is a tough school to get in.
He talks about, as he battles this, it is a very aggressive cancer that he's battling.
Yeah.
And he talks about he'll forecheck until the final buzzer.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think of Skip Valley, that's what you think about is forechecking.
Yeah. I know where he lives. He lives on Spear Street.
Yes.
Because my friend, they're both well-to-do, he's got a place in front of where Skip's is, and they don't have a lot. They have acres and acres and acres of. Oh,
this covers everything.
Yeah.
7 days must have taken several weeks, if not months, to put this together. I mean, they're with him in New York City. He has an apartment down there. He lives next to Sloan Kettering, where he's taking his treatments. He jogs in Central Park every morning. And then he's taking them on trips to his home. He takes them on trips to Georgia, where he grew up, shows them the sugar bush that Tim, sugars at. It takes him to some of his stores, including one of his newest ones in Johnson, which is double the square footage of any other Maple Fields, whereas they changed the entire marketing procedure. It's more of a store than a gas station. I mean, you can walk up, and I've been there once, and you can walk up to a counter and punch it in automated. You punch it into a computer what you want. If you want breakfast, they'll make it for you on a grill. It's something like I've never seen in a Quick Stop before, and he claims that's the future of Quick Stops.
Yeah. Leonard, what kind of cancer does he have?
I think it's blood. It's a myeloma. But I believe it's a cancer of the blood.
How's his prognosis?
He'll be if I remember what he said in the article he said nobody knows.
Okay.
Nobody knows. It's about, I guess, 5 years is kind of I think that was mentioned in the article. With that type of cancer, if you live 5 years, you're doing well.
Now, Leonard,
he's battling that like he's taken on life, and he took on hockey. I mean, if there's any new types of treatments, he certainly is amenable to it. And as I said, this has been a pretty good secret. Apparently, I hadn't heard about this. I don't know if you got wind of this at all, David, along the way.
No, I didn't.
No.
Since May of 2017, he's been battling this.
Now, Leonard, I remember, I don't know if it was about 10 years ago, he ran for the state senate in Chittenden County. Of course, Skip's...
Well, that's like running for dog catcher in a pound.
Yeah, well, Skip's got a little bit of money, and he took quite a
little bit of money. He spent over $100,000 on an unsuccessful bid to win a Chittenden County State Senate seat.
He took a ton of criticism for. Was it over $100,000 he spent?
I think so.
Oh yeah, well, 7 days covers it all.
Yeah.
They pull no punches. I mean, warts and all, or I should say, alleged warts by. The liberal establishment. I'm not going to pass judgment on him. He believes in what he believes, and he's gone forward and taken it to the hilt. Very successful businessman, obviously, ambassador to Slovenia in the Bush administration, and apparently had quite a pick of where he wanted to go. And if you read the article, it'll tell you he picked on Slovenia because his kids were in high school, and he wanted them to be able to play soccer and hockey. So he wanted to go to a country where they could do that.
Okay.
Where in the heck is Slovenia?
Oh, that's, if you were to, it's across the Adriatic Sea from Italy, I believe.
Is it a part of the old Yugoslavia?
Certainly
in that area, yeah, in that area.
I thought he was ambassador to Slovakia.
He was in Bratislava.
Slovakia.
That's where the ambassador's house was.
I think it was Slovakia.
He was Slovakia.
It was Slovakia, Len, not Slovenia.
No, Slovakia, I believe.
Right, you just said Slovenia.
Well, I'm probably not quite sure now. Bratislavia, where is that at?
Slovakia.
So it's Slovakia. I'm sorry.
So.
Yeah.
Slovakia.
So where is Slovakia?
Yeah,
part of Czechoslovakia. You got the Czech Republic and Slovakia.
Okay, so it's not.
It's
Slovenia
not on the
is down
Adriatic.
Across the Adriatic from Italy.
It would be
inland
south of Germany, south and east, I would think.
Right.
South
But anyway,
Europe, I guess.
I thought the interesting thing was he decided where to go. He's at a kind of a greet and meet with President George W. Bush, and he raised, I think, I don't know, you got to read the article, but I think he raised $250,000 or $200,000 for the Bush campaign in Vermont, and and he's at a greet and meet with President George W. Bush, and Bush says, "Valley, come here." And I'm paraphrasing a little bit. He says, "Would you like to be an ambassador, or would you like to go?" And that comes back to he picked the place where his kids could play soccer and hockey. But you do yourself a favor if you can get your hands on one. Pick up a 7 days. I don't know if it's the most recent edition. It was the most recent edition on the stands last week.
It was last week. The new one came out today. Like I said, I've got copies. I'll read it. It's in my. I keep all these guys. I just haven't gotten around to reading it.
Just a superb piece of journalism.
Do they? Are they online too?
That I don't. I'm sure they're online. I don't know if you have to pay to read it online.
I'll bring you one next week.
Okay, thank you, Leonard.
Yes, very good. And we got spring training games just later in the week.
Yeah, my Nats are playing the Astros live on the MLB.
Really? Are they this week?
Friday afternoon.
Friday, that's when they released. Wow. They're playing tomorrow. There's some games, college teams playing major league teams, I believe. Okay. But it is that time of year. So anyway, have a good show.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leonard. In fact, the Red Sox have their doubleheader tomorrow against Northeastern and Boston College.
527-6449. Be on the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County. Before we get into J.D. Martinez, David, I actually have a True Blue Yankee trade that did occur
yesterday.
This afternoon. Was it yesterday?
Or last night.
The
three-way trade.
Yeah, the Brendan Drury was acquired by the Yankees from the D-backs as part of a 3-team trade. New York is sending second base prospect, I don't know the guy, Nick Solik to the Rays, and right-hand pitching prospect Taylor Widner to the D-backs. Arizona will also get this guy's good. Steven Souza.
From the Rays.
Right. He got like 35 home runs last year from Tampa. Drury had long been the interest of the Yankees and figures to open the 18th season as their starting third baseman, allowing prospect Miguel Andujar to get a little bit more seasoning in the minors. Drury has a lot of experience at second base and some in the corner outfield. He flashed decent power in Arizona and could carry deep league fantasy value in the Bronx. The 25-year-old, which is important, is under control through 2021.
The Yankees got him thinking that he could turn into like Aaron Hicks did.
Okay.
I think it was a high draft pick. Has not excelled in the majors, but he's got pretty good talent. Hit 30 home runs the last 2 years.
Yeah. Of course, when they say great power coming from Arizona, it's like saying you have great power playing for the Rockies in Denver.
Well, I think the Yankees, I just read an article before I came over talking about the Hal Steinbrenner way versus his father.
Okay.
And he put out there a few years ago that the Yankees were going to get under the salary cap and they were going to compete. And that's really what they're doing.
David, I'm confused, though. This Andujar's not ready. And what about, let me look at my Gleyber Torres. I mean, what's his situation?
Well,
I thought he was going to be a starter.
He looks good, but you know what? He missed all of last year. What they're saying is it looks like this Andujar is going to be third. And more than likely, the other Torres, who's been there with the Yankees, will be starting as second. And if Gleyber Torres looks pretty good and really sets the world on fire in AAA, he could be a call-up a little later on.
Yeah.
And the other thing the Yankees are probably going to do is they're going to leave some money. This is probably it for them, believe it or not. And they're going to leave some money for some July trades if they have to.
Okay. Let me ask you, David. Say Greg Bird just poops the bed here. Is there any chance like Giancarlo Stanton will leave his DH position and play first base?
I have no idea.
Stanton's getting a boatload of money. And to get that kind of money just to DH, I mean...
Well, he's
actually a pretty decent outfielder.
Well, they've got an excess outfielder. Sooner or later, they're going to have to clean that up. Because Hicks, of course, Ellsbury thinks he's going to compete too. So what the Yankees have this year is they actually have guys that are going to have to earn their playing time.
Well, let me ask you this. Say somebody gets hurt or takes a day off. Who fills in the outfield position? Does Stanton go out there or does Ellsbury go out there?
Well, I think what they're planning on doing is they're planning on, for most of the time, Hicks in center, Gardner in left, Judge.
That's a good defensive outfield.
In right, and Stanton DH. And then when Stanton plays the outfield, let's say they're playing a left-handed pitcher. Gardner might sit.
Okay.
Judge will go to left. And Stanton will go on the outfield.
Okay.
And then they can also throw in Sanchez for DH if he needs.
Yeah.
But you really got five guys fighting for three spots.
Ellsbury will be there come April 1st.
Well, he could be the most expensive pinch runner in baseball history.
He gets, what, 20, 24, or 22, 24?
They still owe him $68 million.
So he's got 3 years left on his contract. That's 22 point. Yeah. Oh, that has to be the worst contract in the history of baseball.
Oh God, no. There's been
are you kidding?
worse.
What about Pablo? You forgetting
Pablo
about Pablo already?
I read a thing last week. Some of the all-time worst contracts. The number one worst contract.
We have another call.
We have a phone call. Good evening. You're on the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County. Hello.
Hello. How we doing, guys?
We're doing swell.
How you doing?
Good. Bob, you know that Yankee deal, that trade the other day, I got looking at all the people in there. You've got some good ball players. in that. And then the guy the Yankees picked up is only 25 or 26 years old with some pop. I don't think he's just going to be there for 1 year. Now, with the other names you threw out, David, you guys are in good position with a lot of good trade bait as well.
Caller, this Brendan Drury's 25 years old, and the Yankees have him under control for the next 4 years, his prime years.
Yeah, he'll have over 20. He'll have 20-something home runs this year and probably 80 RBIs. And you hang on to somebody like that, so they're in a very good position. And swinging over to the Red Sox with Martinez, you just knew it was going to be the matter of time. And they kind of did what I was hoping they were going to do. They kind of loaded his contract up front. I don't think he'll be there for 5 years. I hope not anyways. But he has buyouts after year 2 and 3. And that's what I think probably will happen because he still is 30 years old. And I think after 3 years, in most cases, people that age, you've got the best out of them. So, we'll definitely see what happens there. And also with the addition of Nunez, it gives the Red Sox very good flexibility. He's a multi-position player. He'll be, he'll probably play 5 days a week, So, it's nice having his bat.
Yeah.
In the lineup and him playing multi-positions. Now, it's going to be, I'm going to have to think that they're going to have to do something with Hanley Ramirez. I mean, you don't sign Moreland for $8 million to put butter on your popcorn. And Hanley Ramirez, I think, and I would be the same way. You're a seasoned veteran. To sit the bench like that, you're going to eventually become a distraction to the team. He's there. He's going to want to play. Moreland's a veteran. He's going to want to play. So I can, I don't know if it'll happen, but I think it would be good for the Red Sox to eat 3/4 of a salary, pay $15 million of it and maybe trade him off to the Twins or somebody else because, again, with him on the bench, I just think it will be a distraction. He's been a gentleman since he's been there, but I just can't see Moreland, Ramirez, and Nunez, all, being there.
Yeah, now the thing about Moreland, he's actually getting 6.5 this year and next year, and he's one of the best defensive first baseman in all of baseball. But Alex Cora said yesterday that Hanley will be playing first and batting third. So I think Moreland is the odd man out. And the only way Moreland will ever see playing time if somebody gets hurt. Odd man out too is.
Yeah, I find that hard to believe.
Well, I would try.
I think somebody's going to be gone. They wouldn't have. And I know I heard the same thing, but they wouldn't have signed Moreland with those intentions. It's not like here's $7 million. You get the best spot on the bench.
Yeah,
I think they signed him to play. But
there was no guarantee.
Ramirez is.
There was no guarantee, though, they were going to get Martinez.
He's kind of a liability with his glove.
Yeah.
He's limited range. I know, they're paying him good money, but. With the signing of Moreland, you put your best people on the field, I would think.
Yeah, I would rather have Moreland at first base myself. The other odd man out, and I'm going to say he won't be on the roster,
Brock Holt,
is Blake Swihart. There's absolutely no room for him now. You've got 2 super subs in Eduardo Nunez and, of course, Brock Holt. So I think Swihart
unless they ship Brock, I'm just not sure. Brock Holt with Nunez. I think Brock Holt might be in danger.
Is there an issue, though? Would anybody want Brock with his vertigo from last year?
Maybe not, but, I'm not sure.
I could see Swihart being traded here this spring.
Yeah.
I think the Red Sox are all in, that's for sure. But if the Red Sox are smart, what they'll do is whoever playing better out of Moreland or Ramirez. That's who you play, and if the other guy doesn't like it, too bad.
And I suspect that's what'll
Well, I'm a
happen.
big Moreland fan anyways, and I said last December when they signed him for 2 years, $13 million, they got quite a steal. He's going to hit you 23, 25 home runs.
But he's insurance. I mean, he's insurance. They're
He
not
is
paying,
insurance
they're
now.
not paying him much.
Well, the other thing is
he won't be playing much.
the Red Sox, I just saw it tonight on MLB before I came, had the best defensive runs saved of any team.
I believe that.
The 46 or something.
Yeah.
And if you've got good defense, you can. There's more than one way to skin a cat. And
But David Martinez will never play the field as long as those three guys.
he's
stay
going to be
healthy.
like Big Papi.
Okay.
And
So he's getting 25 this year, 25 next year
Right.
to be a DH, and then his contract will be a paltry $20 million for the final 3 years. And I agree with the caller. More than likely, he'll be gone after 2 years. He hit 45 home runs last year in only 119
19
games.
games.
You prorate that out, that would have been 60 home
well,
runs.
no, he'll be getting $60 million over the last 3 years.
Right, 20 a year
Yeah,
for
right. 20
last
a year.
3 years.
So
But-
that's still
but
that's not chicken feed.
I would say realistically 40 home runs this year for the Red Sox.
I'll tell you what, caller. You know how we were talking about how the teams aren't going to pay money? Look at what that stupid Scott Boras has done. He got Hosmer, $144 million.
But David, that's only 18 a year.
Yeah, but he's got the same kind of opt out.
Okay.
He's paying him the last 3 years of Hosmer's contract. He's only going to get $11 million a year or $12 million a year. And look at Yu Darvish, $120 million from the Cubs. These guys are still getting their money. Arrieta's probably going to get $100 million at least.
Yeah.
It's I don't think.
And you have Moustakas out there still. There's probably in Cobb. I would give him a mid tier. He's not a upper tier pitcher, but he's a very good pitcher. But again, backing up a little bit to the topic I had going before with Moreland and Ramirez there. If that is the case, why did we sign Moreland? Why didn't we wait a week from today and get one of these guys that's out of a job with a Golden Glove?
I think
and get him for $1.5 million and have him platoon with Ramirez.
Yeah, I think I can answer that question with somewhat semi-intelligence. When they signed Moreland, he was one of the very first free agents to sign, and I was surprised he signed for that low, 2 year, $13 million. Nobody had any idea that this market would draw you up to sandpaper. You're right. In hindsight, right now would be a good time to pick up somebody. But back in December, there was no guarantee J.D. Martinez would be signing with the Red Sox. And they got Moreland at a quote-unquote cheap insurance policy at $6.5 million.
Aren't the Red Sox
Yeah, but
like
the owners knew it in December. This just didn't happen by coincidence.
That I do have a question, caller. David just brought up, and I meant to ask that. The Red Sox were hovering right around the $197 million salary cap. With Martinez's $25 million, they must be up around $220 right now. They're going to be paying.
Yeah, I do believe they're probably over. But, it's kind of hilarious where all their big money is. Most of it's dead money.
Yep. But you know what, caller? If like you said, if you can trade Hanley Ramirez away, that's going to get you back down to right around the salary cap.
Yeah, but nobody's going to pay his.
Well, like the caller said, if the Red Sox throw in half the money.
He's not even. He's so overpaid. The Red Sox set the bar high for bad contracts.
Yeah.
Pablo, Carl Crawford.
The Yankees haven't exactly done a great job.
Well, this little thing that I read the other day, the 10 worst contracts in history. The number one was A-Rod's $250. Mm-hmm. Not the first $250. Right. The second.
Do you
$250.
really think that was the worst?
Yeah, that was bad.
He did produce. I think Pavel Sandoval was the worst contract I've ever seen.
I think you can make a case
for the
that.
simple fact of there was no production there at all. There was controversy there. They got absolutely nothing out of him.
The Mets have got a couple of real beauties. They had Bobby Bonilla, was like a 4 or 5 year, $60 million. He did nothing.
He's still being paid, Bonilla. They gave him kind of like a 20-year contract.
Jason Bay, not Day.
Yep.
Jason Bay. He was like 5 year. He
great
was
with
worthless.
the Pirates, great with the Red Sox.
He was awful.
Big with the Mets. But I'll give you another name. Pitcher, this is 25 years ago. Kevin Brown. Do you remember him?
Yeah, but Kevin Brown was actually pretty good. Kevin Brown's...
He was injured during it.
Wasn't he with the Rangers?
Yeah.
He was with the Dodgers, too.
Yep. David, bring that article in next week.
And you know who else was a bad one? How about Barry Zito? Over $100 million, and he was worthless.
I was a huge Barry Zito fan. Yes, he pitched great with the Oakland A's. I think runner-up one year for
and
Cy
with the
Young.
Giants.
Signed huge with the Giants in a pitcher's ballpark and was horrible.
Pablo was the
How
second
about
worst.
the one we have in the minor leagues that's not good
Rusney
enough
Castilla.
to make the majors?
He was one of the top 10 too.
Caller, is he even in spring training camp with the Sox? Well, I haven't even read that name this spring.
I don't know.
I've read his
I would
name.
say yes,
I think he had some
and I
decent winter
only
ball.
say that because I don't think it's considered him being on the major league roster.
Yeah.
I think if he played one game on a major league roster, his money would be put against a salary cap. Is that it?
Yeah, I think he gets
right.
like $14 million a year. So, and I think I read last year, regardless how well he played in Rhode Island, he's never going to see the light of day in Boston.
Yeah, Bobby, I think you're right about that. I think they just can't.
How about
they can't do it with the money
the
one?
Yankees, to give you a couple other beautiful contracts besides Ellsbury, which is a real bad one. How about Kai Igagawa, who was the pitcher the Yankees paid $45 or $50 million to, never pitched in the major leagues one inning. He just sucked. He was that bad.
Yeah. So
You just never know what you're going to get.
Now, caller, did you happen to watch the Daytona 500 on Sunday?
Yes, we had it on here, and I'd watch it off and on, but I guess I'm old school. I don't like these different segments of the races, these three different segments. It's like wherever you are racing, nobody moves. Everybody is stuck in that bunch of those restrictor plates. And I don't know. It's not like the old days. I guess I'm getting old. Everything seems to shine better in the old days. But, it was all right, I guess, because it was the first race of the year. But I just wish there was one race with one winner.
Well, I didn't watch much, but I did watch a little bit of the end, and it seems like the guys that won were the last men standing because they started with 40, and there was only about 7 or 8 cars left.
David, I don't follow NASCAR. I've never even heard of this Austin Dillon. I had to type him up on Google. 27 years old, out of North Carolina.
Driving the number 3. Austin Dillon actually is much better known than you think. And his grandfather is Richard Childress, who was Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s car owner.
Okay.
And who has about 10 Winston Cup victories. And Austin, last year, they let him use the number 3 again. So which was, sacred, old Dale Earnhardt's number 3. And how he ended up winning was they kept having these big pileups, and all the fast cars were getting smashed up, and get to the end, and there were only 7 or 8 cars left. And the guy who had a pretty good car for the whole day, this Blaney, Dillon had a head of steam, and he hit him in the rear end, and he knocked him into the wall, and he won the race.
Yeah, so I mentioned 15, 20 years ago, Daytona made it to Main Street, USA. But I think that NASCAR's just fallen right off.
Well, it has, but the Daytona 500's their Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And that place, it was sold out.
Have you been down for Daytona?
Never been to Daytona.
It was packed. I was going to mention that every seat was taken. It's the first race of the year, and it was packed there.
Yeah, it was. It'd be interesting to see. Of course, if this number 3, if he can win a few more races, he'll bring back some of the old crowd. But the thing is, there's a lot of young guys. The guy that came in second is a black guy.
Is that right? Came in second?
His name is Bubba Watts.
Yes,
Wallace.
the first one to race, I guess.
In like 40 years.
Yeah.
And he came in second, and so that's pretty exciting too.
The lovely Danica, she got smashed up.
She got caught in a wreck, and she's done.
Is she done racing?
She's going to race one more race. She's going to do an Indy race for 4th of July. She's going to do Indianapolis 500.
And her new squeeze is Aaron Rodgers.
And he was there.
He was there?
He was there.
Yeah.
Well,
Aaron Rodgers has done pretty well with his lady friends over the years.
Well, you know what? There's something to be said between the rock stars, the athletes, and the politicians. They all seem to attract all the fine-looking ladies.
Yeah. So.
But you can't mention that. If you're Brent
Okay,
Musburger,
guys, I'll let you guys go, and great show as usual.
Thank you, caller.
Thanks for calling.
if you're Brent Musburger and you make some crack about somebody's girlfriend, the next thing you know, you're kicked off the air. But on Channel 15, we don't care.
A.J. McCarron's girlfriend, that was the one. Yeah.
And he's finally getting drafted this year, isn't he?
But no, I can't remember what team he's on, and he came close to being traded, but they got their fax. I don't know who uses faxes anymore, but that was delayed by a couple minutes and the trade was off. So I think NFL actually granted him free agency, and he should find a starting gig. He was a pretty decent quarterback down in Alabama.
Now, what else did I watch? You know what I've been doing a lot? I did watch some of the Olympics this last week.
Speaking of which, I think I know who's going to be watching some TV later tonight. I believe your daughter-in-law. We have the gold medal game on the women's side.
That'll be a good game.
Canada-U.S. 10:45 tonight. Yeah.
And the hockey is limited commercial interruptions.
Yeah. Well, I'm not capable of talking. I've watched 0 seconds of it. I have no interest.
I am so...
I've watched very little.
I've been trying to find a few of the obscure, though I did watch the women's downhill last night, which was pretty good.
Yeah, Vermont Connection. Some of the Vermont Connection,
whatever her name is.
She didn't do the downhill. Lindsey Vonn was the big star.
But Sheffrin has not performed well, I heard.
She got a gold medal.
She got a gold.
She did get a gold.
But the big news, I guess, today was the, excuse me, 2 American Nordic cross-country women getting a gold.
Wow,
it was the first U.S. medal in Nordic cross-country skiing since Bill Koch.
Yeah.
40 in the 76 Olympics.
Yeah.
Now, I watched some of the biathlon, which was really cool. They have what they call a mass start. And to think that you've got to cross-country ski a bunch of miles and then stop and shoot, and then if you miss the target, you have to do a 125-yard penalty lap.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And the race went right down to the wire. The guy won by an inch. It was a Frenchman and somebody else.
Yeah, because they say that sport, you have to be in super great condition simply because when you take your shot, you don't want your heart beating so fast that your rifle jiggles.
And let's see what other little sports. I do like the short track skating. That's like roller derby. I watched a little bit of that last night, and the luge and the skeleton and some of the bobsled. Those guys are fast.
Yeah. Now, David, we have to mention, and we talked in the parking lot last week on Showtime. It's a must documentary on Eric Clapton. About 2 hours. 2 hour 10 minutes. I mean, one of the all-time great rock legends, and they did a really nice job on that.
I didn't realize he was such a drunk.
I didn't know he was a druggie and a drunk that
I knew he was a druggie. I knew he almost was, because when I was in college, I went I graduated from high school in '74. He was off the deep end for 2-3 years. It was like he was gone. And then his first album that came out, I think, was 408 Ocean Boulevard or something.
That had the hit Wonderful Tonight on that one.
And he said, yeah, I'm off the heroin, but everybody didn't know that he just swapped heroin for booze. And I couldn't believe at the concerts, he yelling and swearing at the people.
Because he's such a quiet, mild-mannered person, last few decades, but he was horrible.
Of course, what changed his life, of course, was one of the worst tragedies you could ever have. His 4-year-old kid fell out of a 50-story building.
A 50-story
53
building?
stories in New York City.
Yeah, I remember when that happened.
And he's been sober ever since.
Wow.
And that you don't wish on anybody.
Yeah.
And
now, I'm ready to argue with both you guys. We talked briefly last week, and I listened to it while I was working today, the Beatles' White Album.
Okay.
It's a double album, of course, and I've always said there's so much garbage. You can take all the good cuts and make a great, great, great album. And I said, nah, I've got to tell Duke and Dave, this just doesn't
You wouldn't even. Did I tell you I bought that a couple of weeks ago? I've got it in my car. Yeah, no, there's a bunch of songs on there that do nothing for me, but there's some good.
The good ones
some songs
are
I like
just
a lot.
really good.
Right.
I'd agree. I hadn't listened to it in years.
Yeah.
It's not as good as I remember.
David, you said.
See, now I think it was better than I remember, so I guess we're all...
Oh, really?
You told me to go on YouTube and listen to the White Album Unplugged.
Yes.
So I'm lying in bed with my remote and said, the Beatles' White Album Unplugged on YouTube. And there it was. And I hate the song Back in the USSR. Never liked it from the first, but acoustic, slowed down.
Wasn't it cool?
That was a really good
And how
song.
about While My Guitar Gently Weeps? Wasn't that great?
Yep, the slowed down version. And for the record, that song...
If that Unplugged was a new album, it would sell...
Yep. While My Guitar Gently Weeps, in my humble opinion, it's the top 3 all-time Beatles song. We also talked, the Beatles did such an injustice to George Harrison. This guy was so talented, and they just kept him down. I think, one of my very favorite songs, and I think it was from Rubber Soul, If I Needed Someone, with George Harrison sang. And but you go to, was it Abbey Road? He did Something.
3. Was Something?
Something.
And
is one
Here
of my
Comes
favorite
the Sun,
songs.
right on the same album. And
that was the first album that George had the A single. Something.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I told David, Frank Sinatra said Something was
Great
the
song.
all-time greatest love song ever written.
Really?
And also,
Great song.
we were talking, we talked real deep subjects here. When the Beatles broke up in '70, George Harrison went out and made a double album, All Things Must Pass.
Incredibly
And
good
I
album.
think that might have won the Grammy for album of
Was
the
it
year.
a double or a triple?
Oh boy, that's a good question.
I almost think that was a triple.
Yeah. So
I had that album.
Yeah. So I thought of you boys today while it was playing. I'm going, oh.
Well, they had, of course, I've watched so much of that stuff. The concert for George, and then his wife had Martin Scorsese do a
4-hour documentary.
documentary on George, and plus some of this other Beatles stuff. And the thing was, when they first got going, George didn't know how to write songs, and George didn't really care to. But when they got towards the end, George had a stockpile of songs. And to give you a little background on While My Guitar Gently Weeps, while they were doing that album, George brought it out, and the other fellas didn't think it was very good.
Really?
So what he did, he was pals with Eric Clapton.
Yeah, Clapton played on
He
that.
brought Eric Clapton in
Oh, really?
and played it with Eric Clapton, and then the guys go, okay, this is a song.
Oh, it's such a great song.
And
Yeah.
Now, I also heard, too, that he had My Sweet Lord written and said, let's put on an album. George and Paul sitting down, or Paul and John, no, thank you.
well, and then, the thing was with George, if the Beatles, They said that Paul broke up. George was done anyway.
Yeah.
George had too much stuff, and he was never. You got to remember, Paul McCartney and John Lennon probably wrote over 300 Beatles songs. 200 of them are terrific. Probably 100 of them are in the best 200 songs ever written.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where are you going to fit in?
Yeah.
And so George really had a lot of stuff built up.
Yeah. And you were saying, too, their last album, Let It Be, was kind of overproduced. The Abbey Road album, what occurred there was such discord towards each other that every Beatle individually went in and did their stuff. There was no togetherness whatsoever.
Well, and
so when Let It Be was ready to be, they said, look, this is going to be our last album. Let's put our differences aside and let's work as a team.
On Abbey Road, you mean?
No, Let It Be was their last album. No,
Abbey Road was...
You keep telling me that. Let It Be was their last album.
No, what happened, the chronology of it is...
Let It Be was the last album issued.
Let It Be was the last album issued, but the last album they did together as a group was Abbey Road. And what had happened was, Let It Be came out of what was called the Get Back sessions.
In fact, the very last song
is Get Back. And also, if you remember, they had that rooftop concert on top of the Apples.
Don't Let Me Down.
And Get Back and a few other songs. And but what happened was, how can you work when you got cameras on you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Plus, John had Yoko Ono there all the time. It was really a mess. So what happened is, they got a hold of, and George Martin didn't produce any of those songs. So what they did is they got a hold of George Martin, and George Martin said, look, if we're going to do an album, we're going to do it like we did the old days. I'm going to produce it. We're going to sit down. We're going to do it right. And that was Abbey Road.
Okay.
Yeah. Because Abbey Road was done right. Abbey Road, I think, is their best album by far and away. And
I love very good, great album.
It's a super duper.
Okay.
And they kind of knew it was their swan song. And you know what's kind of funny now that I've had a little free time on my computer is when you go and Get Back, they've got a lot of these outtakes and the tapes. They actually work together a lot more, even on Abbey Road, than you think.
Okay.
And Abbey Road, they were still working together. And then even when they broke up, George and Ringo worked together. Photograph was written by George.
Okay.
George produced Ringo.
Yeah.
John and Paul reconciled a couple years later. You guys probably don't remember, but there was a Saturday night when Saturday Night Live came on, 1975.
Lorne Michaels, the producer,
had a check for the Beatles for $3,000. It was their standard fee. John and Paul were watching it at the Dakota, and they said, "Come on, let's go," because George was already there. George was they were this far away from going.
Right, 1975.
Right,
it was.
75?
Yeah. Yep.
So,
sure up here.
And I have no doubt that had John not gotten killed,
I agree.
they would have gotten back together.
Yeah, really.
They had been offered in middle 70s, like 78 or 79. Some guy offered them $100 million for one concert.
Kidding.
Yeah.
I'm not. And I think the guy said, I would have made money with it.
Yep.
All right.
And we'll never see, no matter how big any of these guys ever get, we'll never see a cultural phenomena
No, I agree.
like the Beatles ever.
Sure,
Right place,
we
right
wouldn't
time.
think so. Yeah, it seems inconceivable you would.
Yep.
But boy, did we get off
Yeah.
track.
Listen, never bring up the Beatles in any type show because you can go on and on. Okay, basketball. I'm going to just touch on the Celtics here.
Boy, 23 games left. What's happened to this team, Hawk?
They've gone 6-9 the last 15 games. Marcus Smart broke his hand, or right, he's coming back Friday.
Is that right?
And he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. And I was one of the pundits saying, just let him go, let him go. This guy plays defense like nobody else can play defense.
It makes big shot. Not a good shooter, but makes sure good big shots.
Boy, is it shown, the Celtics have been just giving up a ton of points. And I think him punching a picture in a hotel room and doing whatever to his hand was the best thing that's ever happened to him, because the Celtics now know.
Just to showcase his value.
And I always say defense has to count for something in basketball. And he, I believe, inspires everybody else to play.
I know you're psyched. I know you're inspired by the great NBA All-Star Game, Hawk. You got right in it.
I don't watch it.
I'm of course kidding.
Now, is there a guy with a broken ankle? Is he playing at all?
David, that's Gordon Hayward. And if he was playing for somebody else right now, and I looked around the league and said, what missing chip do the Celtics need? I'd say, well, the Utah Jazz, Gordon Hayward. Well, he's on our team. I'm still predicting the end of March he will join us.
Really?
Some are less optimistic than I am. But, of course, the Toronto Raptors are now 2 games above the Celtics. Season ended tonight, would be playing the 76ers.
Well, that's not a bad team.
Right.
Pretty good team.
There. So, one thing, too, couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, and I'm sure you saw this. Louisville got the hammer.
Oh, yeah.
They took away Rick Pitino.
Took away a championship.
All vacated the wins from 2011 through 2015 and stripped their 2013 national title from them. Rick Pitino.
But Rick didn't know what was going on.
Everywhere he goes, he just leaves dirt.
Yeah,
he destroyed the Boston Celtics for years.
Dukies, for the record, are playing Louisville right about now.
Duke, how long was he at
Louisville?
With the Celtics.
Oh, Celtics, couple 3 years.
But you know what? The thing I
remember
Red
Auerbach,
most about, he stripped Red Auerbach.
Of the presidency.
The president.
I know.
It was just an honorary position. Old Red would sit in the stands and smoke a cigar.
Believable.
Pitino ran the whole show.
Pitino drove me crazy, though.
So he could become president.
Even beyond that, it's like a college coach. He'd be running up and down the sidelines. They were making trades about one a month. He drove me crazy. But the Red Auerbach situation, he should be shot for that.
Yeah. Well, he traded Joe Johnson. I remember drafting him out of Colorado. And within 2 months, traded him. And Joe Johnson's got a near Hall of Fame type career. Another question I have for you, Duke, is Duke. They were number 12 last week.
Jumped up to number 5.
They jumped to 5. That's somewhat.
Guess what? I think I mentioned last week, my friend Roy pays way more attention to them than I. They were playing horrible defense, very untogether team. Coach K finally, in his old age, is more willing to go to a zone. I mean, obvious, they're getting killed. They've gone to a 2-3 zone. Last 2 teams they've held to like in the 50s. So the Dukies are looking like they might, and this is without Bagley. He hasn't even been playing with, I don't think a big injury, a knee injury or something. But the Dukies are showing some life.
We're not that far away from the playoffs. This UVM Catamounts lost by 1 point to Hartford the other day.
Senior night tonight. Trey Bell-Haynes and company, their last home game.
So they're playing Binghamton tonight, and next Saturday they're at Stony Brook. Finish out the regular season next Tuesday in Orono, Maine. Then they start the America East.
I'm not sure. Those long streaks, I always get, Virginia beat Duke at Duke for the first time in 23 years this year. Yeah. Long streaks like that get me concerned.
But the Cats, Duke, have been the previous 3 games falling behind.
They're behind by 17 points in one of those games.
Yeah, and they started the game against Hartford down 14-2. And didn't they go up 6 points in the second half? And
could be. I don't think a loss might be a good thing for them.
And UVM hockey, I had the dubious distinction to go down Saturday night.
Dubious distinction.
Does that not make sense? Shall I rephrase that?
Well, I mean, it makes. I don't think it.
I don't think the Duke is. I'd like
to think I'd like to think it's not what you mean to say, but far be it from me to tell you what you mean to say.
Well, a real wordsmith.
Not exactly a positive
He is
thing
a wordsmith.
to say.
Perhaps I chose the wrong words. How about?
But it's good. Good to be in there. Thanks for taking me.
So we went and saw Northeastern, ranked 12th in the country.
Good team.
And he said a word I have never heard anybody use in a sporting event, but he was 100% accurate. Northeastern's on our power play. And David, tic-tac-toe. I mean, I'm just like sitting there marveling at their power play.
Men against boys.
He goes, they're so composed out there. And I said, yeah, I never, but you're right. Just the way you could tell they were coached this way, and they were just methodical the way they were.
Well, they must be good if they won the Beanpot.
They won the Beanpot. Right,
they're good.
Right, they were down in
and
the
the goalie's what, 6'4", supposedly 188. He looked more like about 210 or 220.
David,
good luck getting a puck past his goalie.
Now are monsters every level. I mean, if you're under 6'2", you have no chance of ever making the NHL.
A decent game. UVM got a real nice goal in the first period when the puck was kind of in front of the net. Whoever it was kind of spun around, took a shot, got a goal, but then Northeastern got 3 goals in about the first half of the second period. But it was UVM showed some life in the third period, but it was a fun game. Thanks, Hawk.
Yeah.
Good to be in there.
What's wrong with America? Everybody gets a ribbon now, right? So we're sitting there talking about the playoffs. If like UVM finishes, they were currently in 8th place.
And they end the season at BU 2 games this weekend, right?
They'll probably lose both. They would get home ice advantage for the first round.
Will they, even if they lose both games?
So I wasn't sure. So tonight I went on the internet to Hockey East, like, when the heck's going on with the playoffs? All 11 teams.
Everybody makes it?
Will once again make the playoff tournament. Listen to this. Unheard of.
It's about money.
The 5 highest seeds will all receive buys. 5 teams receiving first-round buys. Yeah. That's crazy, into the quarterfinal round, while seeds 4 and 5 will be guaranteed to play each other at the higher seeds arena on the second weekend of the playoffs. Seeds 6, 7, and 8 will host seeds 9, 10, 11 in the opening round, March 2nd through the 4th. The 3 winning teams then will be reseeded and travel to the top 3 seeds for the quarterfinal matchups the following weekend. But David, how do you have a hockey season, and why have a hockey season if everybody is going to make the playoffs? How about you don't make the playoffs and people look at the coaches and say, you're not coaching properly, you're not recruiting properly, we haven't made the playoffs in X number of years? Everybody, David, more, as you know, hockey more than any sport, all it takes is the other team to have a little off night and you have a hot goaltender and you're going to win.
Well, I don't think in a playoff series, I can't imagine that number 11 has beaten a number 1 or...
Well, no, but 11 will be playing number 6.
Well, I would bet you 11...
Well, you're right. The chances of, however, it's possible. My point being is you're in the cellar, okay? Let's have some league credibility here. And you're right, it's always about the money.
Usually, I used to think, wow, as long as they play good the last couple weeks, but if you look at the teams that end up getting to the NCAAs and the teams, even in football, look at this year. Who was in a Super Bowl? Teams with 2 best records.
Yeah, right.
And though in NHL hockey, the team with the best record doesn't often get to the Stanley Cup. But in almost every sport, who's the team last year had the best record in American League? Cleveland. Who was 1 game behind them? Houston.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the NHL. The team with the most points wins the President's Cup. We'll talk about the Bruins in a couple minutes. The Bruins are on the verge of having the best record in hockey, winning the President's Cup. The last team that has won the President's Cup
and won
the cup,
probably Detroit, wasn't it?
Probably has been. It's been years and years.
Yeah.
In years. And a lot of teams have found out that, we got to tap the brakes every once in a while.
Well, the thing is with hockey more than any of these other sports, the playoffs are a completely different animal than the regular season. Because the regular season hockey, there's no way they could play like playoff hockey. They get a few big games, Canadiens, Bruins, Rangers, Flyers, Pittsburgh Flyers. You get a few rivalry games where they might turn up the juice to about 70. But none of them turn the amp up to 11 like on Spinal Tap until the playoffs come. Well, it's more than 10.
Yeah. And one thing
that was a really good movie too.
This is Spinal Tap. And I think one of their concerts was Plattsburgh, New York. They were going to, I haven't seen Spinal Tap in a lot of years.
It's as good. It's funnier. It's funnier today than I think it was even then.
Yeah, I probably saw it long ago.
So the aforementioned Boston Bruins, 82 points, team above them in the Eastern Conference. Tampa Bay Lightning with 83. However, the Bees have 2 games at hand. And as I mentioned last couple of weeks, season ended tonight. Bruins would play the Leafs. They get up in first place. They play Carolina.
They play the Leafs?
Yeah. You want to play Carolina in the first round.
Boy, they had a stink. They had a rare stinker of a game in their first game of the 5-game road trip. But what was the final? I caught it at the end of the first period.
I think it was 6-1, but they've come back and won
but they
the last
came back.
2 games.
They beat Johnny Hockey, Johnny Gaudreau and the Flames.
But the Bruins
2-1
are
beat
playing
Edmonton.
Scary good. And I'm not going to say what I said last week when those guys on Comcast NBC Sports, Joe Haggerty, they're peaking too early. And again, what are you supposed to coach tell them? You got to lose a few games?
I mean, like the UConn women's basketball team, terrible for, what are they supposed to do? Just go away, and Gino's supposed to not recruit good players?
Yeah. But the Boston Bruin fans here in Franklin County
what a
have a legitimate right to be optimistic. Now, let's flip the coin on the other side. David, I'm watching the Canadiens and Flyers last night. We're ahead.
That must have been exciting.
We're ahead 2-1. And of course, I will freely admit, I'm just looking for an entertaining game and a Montreal Canadiens loss. Why? Because we're currently have the 3rd worst record in hockey, and I'm a big picture kind of guy. I think Japanese. I'm not like an American that just looks at the small picture. I'm looking at years down the road. So Arizona and Buffalo are the 2 stinky teams.
Is Las Vegas better than the Canadiens?
David, Las Vegas is like 10 points up in the Western Conference.
What about Vegas? That's a great story.
82 points.
Wow, I never knew that.
First place, Nashville's behind them, 81 points. Oh, and the goal. Listen, the coach, Bruce Cassidy of the Bruins, any other year, he would be unanimous pick for coach of the year.
Because I mentioned him, obvious coach of the year, and I forgot about Las Vegas.
We'll get coach
now,
of the year.
Now, is their goalie P.K. Subban's brother?
Malcolm Subban's
but he's not there. No, he's not there.
Marc-Andre Fleury, who's got a 2-3 Stanley Cup
he's been playing pretty good.
He's played great.
Vegas did pick up Malcolm Subban.
Right.
Okay.
And
he didn't do anything with Boston.
Subban has played extremely well.
Has he really?
He's been injured a couple times.
Hawk, have you noticed your attendance? Are they drawing well in Vegas?
You couldn't find an empty seat 10 miles from that arena.
Boy, what a story.
A hot.
Now, what about our old buddy P.K. Subban? Is he still doing all right for Nashville?
I heard just him being mentioned as possible trade bait a week or two ago.
I've heard that too, but they're 1 point behind Vegas. They made the Stanley Cup
Good
finals
team. Great, yeah.
Last
great
year,
team.
Nashville is very good. So let me conclude the Flyer-Canadian game. So we're up 2-1. Flyers pull their goaltender. Right when he opens the bench door, steps on, the Flyers score. What do? I go, yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So we go in overtime, and there's nothing better in life than overtime 3-on-3. This is pond hockey like you played when you were 10 years old, just up and down. And Flyers scored, took away a point from us, so we only ended up with 1 point. So the Canadiens have a ton of work. Carey Price, I wish could say, has been mediocre this year. He's been terrible. I'm being very blunt. He's been horrible this year. And they haven't had any more injuries than a normal team would have. They have lost Shea Weber, and could be he's out for the year. He's been gone since mid-December, and he hurt his foot very first game of the year. And I don't, of course, they always tell us lower body injury.
But
they never give us any information about what's really going on. So listen, if we're going to stink it up, give me the third best available player in the world in the June draft, and I'll go from there.
Well, I think they need a whole new management too.
Well, how's Claude?
Claude, listen, when he was fired on Valentine's Day last year by the Bruins,
Habs got him the next day.
Listen, he got 6 phone calls that very day to
As
coach.
in from different.
Yeah,
Is that
there would
right?
have been 6 teams that would have fired the coach.
I don't think the coach is the problem. I just don't think they've got any horses.
David, and I've been
That's the
saying
main
that
problem.
since New Year's.
Colorless, isn't it a
I don't get
colorless
upset.
game?
They lose for some reason. They lack talent.
And they don't have anything in the pipeline either.
Nope.
That's what I'm saying.
So the natives have got to be
Oh, I
pretty.
bet
I
they're
haven't been
getting-
listening to TSN 690 too much.
Yeah.
They've got to be. Hey,
But
they're
Julian himself isn't particularly.
Well, Claude Julien signed a 5-year contract,
Really?
and if he's not the highest paid coach in the league,
What's he saying about this?
I don't listen to 690 during the afternoon. And of course, I was telling the Duke the other day on their way down to Burlington, when CF 12 or whatever, CT 12,
CTV.
they eliminated
LCF.
their sports department back in June,
Well,
and they were
wonderful.
second to
See you
none.
guys.
They would cover the Canadians game, they would have interviews, they did great. But
Two
the thing
guys
for me,
all over them.
David, is I would record that half-hour block, and I would always watch the opening headlines of what's going on in Quebec. If it piqued my interest, I would watch the story, and I'm not close to this guy of being that savvy about the province of Quebec, but I always kind of had a taste of it. And since they took the sports department off, I don't record it anymore. So I've really lost touch of Quebec politics and stuff, but I've really lost, I would follow the Alouettes via that station. I don't like soccer, but I would still follow the Montreal Impact. So that's been a real down buzz dealing with them. But Carey Price is the starting block with that team next year. He has to come back to Vezina Trophy type performance. But
now, do you guys change something? Did you watch the golf this weekend?
I wanted to mention golf. Yeah.
by the grace of
Bubba's
God,
back.
I recorded the final round, and just watching Bubba blast out of the sand trap into the hole was just worth it.
You
I
know
didn't
what?
see that. Was that late in the last round?
16th, 15th hole?
11.
No.
Yeah, that was on 11.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Oh, okay.
I
That
didn't see it.
Riviera golf course.
I love it. I love the
is
course.
TUFF.
Yeah.
And that number 10 hole, par 4, 280 yard or 290 yard hole, half those guys bogeyed it.
Is that right?
Because they tried going for it that is a golf course.
Yeah.
And that was, who's been playing good, or been playing well, I should say, to use proper grammar, is Phil Mickelson.
Phil, another good
I
tourney
have
for
to
Phil.
apologize. I either told you, and
Yeah.
I think I told the Duke beginning of the year, I said Phil Mickelson
He's done.
irrelevant. It's the word I use. He's good for a 47-year-old, but he'll never be anything in the.
No, you're right. Phil had another. He's been playing
he's
consistently very good golf.
good since the opening of the
My
season.
side, and Graham McDowell is one of my favorite guys. Kind of a 2-year slump. He was 2 shots off the lead going into the last round and had a 77.
And Bubba teared up during the post-game
Oh, is that right?
interview. And I have to ask you guys, do you think that poll that was taken 2 or 3 years ago, and the poll was like, if somebody had a flat tire in the parking lot, what would be the least person you'd want to help fix
And
the
it
flat
was
tire?
Bubba.
Because they didn't want to outright say, who do you hate the most on tour? But it was kind of conjectured into who would
He's
you
gotten
not.
some grief. He's kind of every once in a while he'll rant and rave at his caddy and stuff, but he's an
He's had his
emotional.
caddy for 12 years.
He's an emotional guy. I don't think he's a bad guy.
He played in the NBA celebrity basketball game
Oh,
the
right,
night
I read that.
before.
And Tracy McGrady stuffed him like.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess Bubba played high school basketball.
But a comment I heard, I think I didn't pick this up during the tournament, but Justin Thomas, just a comment I heard on Sports Talk Radio today or yesterday, just kind of grousing about, I guess he played right behind Tiger, who of course didn't come close to making the cut, and was just complaining about, just the huge Tiger crowds and stuff,
it's
saying,
massive.
hey, that probably costs who's ever playing behind him a half a stroke or a stroke or something.
Well, I feel bad for you, Justin Thomas.
So, David,
suck it up and play.
My question, I talked to Duke about it Saturday night. How can a professional golfer, any professional golfer, but especially of the ilk of Tiger Woods, cannot keep your ball on the fairway? The little bit he's played this year, he can't keep the ball in the fairway.
He's been all over the place.
And he decided, the headline was, Tiger realizes he can't improve his game by practice alone. Hence, he's in the Honda Classic.
I was going to give you credit for that.
Kudos to the Nighthawk.
Because
Tiger finally listened to the Nighthawk.
I'm a bum, okay? I'm a hack. That little practice range at Champlain, you look for the yellow flag, I'll bang, bang, bang that flag. Then you'll say, hey, Nighthawk, time to play. And I'll shank my first. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly.
I am great on the practice range.
Speed, what it is, and Tiger explained it, is when you're practicing, you get the tempo right.
Mm-hmm.
You get the tempo right, and everything hits, and it, boom, and the ball goes. In game situation, the pressure, you try a little harder, your things get a little bit out of whack. And with him, a little bit out of whack, the ball's all over the place.
All over the place. And it's funny you bring that up. When you're practicing, you get a bucket of balls, you're hitting 50 to 75 balls. Tempo. You get the tempo where you can close your eyes and hit the ball. If you go out in the evening, like me and my buddy Joe, walk 9 holes 4 evenings a week, and I keep telling Joe, it's hard to become proficient. You've got 2 par 3s, so you're only hitting your driver 7 times. So the proficiency of that is tough.
Well, that Peter Costas is a pretty good
analyst.
Of he does a lot of swings.
Yeah.
And he was saying that the swing that Tiger has during the round is a completely different swing than what he's got warming up when you watch his videos and when he's hitting the ball. But I will say he looks good. And
He does.
He's swinging free. I think if he played more and got his balance back, I'm not saying he could win, but he might be better.
So what, David, and I agree with you, his
he looks better than he has in 5 years.
He's violent off the tee box.
Yeah.
So if you're his swing coach, what are you going to tell him?
Well, of course, he doesn't have a swing coach right now.
Okay, well, I just appointed you.
What I would tell him is I'd get a hold of Hank Aney.
Get his old coach back.
Yeah, because he only won like 48 tournaments with Hank Aney and eight majors.
But you watch Bubba on Sunday. Every drive, not only on the fairways,
right down the middle.
Right in the middle.
Striping.
Constant. And this Bubba is one of the longest hitters on the circuit.
He really had been to hell and back. He was ranked like 180th or something.
Yeah, he was like 180th and moved up to 18th with that victory. So, but David, I don't know if I'm getting old, but I'm just enjoying seeing the green on the big screen.
And Riviera
is
one of my favorite courses.
Beautiful old golf course.
Just looking at it.
And I would like to thank the inventors of HD TV.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys out there, because it's great for all sports, but it really has heightened the visual of golf. It just is right in your face.
Oh.
So now the folks are heading east, but the Western Swing's fun. When you start off in Hawaii, beautiful, Torrey Pines, Riviera. But time to head east. We're talking Florida.
Honda is
this week.
Palm Beach Gardens in Florida.
Palm Beach Gardens.
Ricky
and you
Feller.
got what, the Bear Trap? What are those? The last 3-4 holes?
That's on this one?
Yeah. So I just want to take one step back. I failed to mention the NHL trade deadline is Monday afternoon at 4 o'clock.
What about the guy, the B. Scott Hawk? Not a bad addition, Mr. Holden?
Right. Nick Holden, a solid 30-year-old
I guess a left shot defenseman.
A no-name player, but it was a good pickup. And this is the quandary I think the Bruins have. There's no super team in the NHL this year.
Yeah.
They could easily win the Cup this year. I don't want to say easily.
Not sure I'd say easily.
But they could certainly be a favorite to win the Cup. Yeah. What do you do? Do you mess the chemistry with this team that's played unbelievably well for the last 3 months? By bringing a new body in here? Or?
I wouldn't think so. They've won like 20 out of the last 27 games or something.
I'm thinking they're...
And Tuukka, I mean, obviously the goalie's key. Tuukka's having, aside from a lousy game in Vancouver, he's had a very good year. Geez, I mean, the way they're going, it seems like just a great blend of youth. Some Charlie McAvoy with Patrice Bergeron, already one of the game's better players, having a great year. Marchand's having a good year. Seems like a pretty good team right now.
You got to give Cassidy credit, too. Early in the season, he benched Tuukka, I believe, for 4 straight games. And
benched Krug, I think, for a game or two. He wasn't happy with Krug.
Khabibulin played for 4 games and actually played pretty well.
Rask was on shaky ground for a while.
Yep.
Oh, Cassidy, like you said, without the Vegas team, Cassidy would seem to be odds-on coach of the year.
And, of course, David always says there's nothing better than NHL playoffs versus any other sport.
Yeah, Stanley Cup's great.
I'm going to be the outside guy looking in this year.
I'd be surprised if they made any drastic move, but I guess you can argue it both ways.
Yeah.
They're good enough that, they could win the Cup, but I'm not sure I see any huge need there right now.
Yeah. And speaking of playoffs, the NBA is starting to consider realigning playoffs, where you would have a chance where a Golden State could end up playing a Western team
for the championship.
They may reseed them 1 through 16, and say Golden State would play Team 16.
They're thinking about it.
And that way, it's just not the same old every year, because especially the last number of years, the dominant teams have been out of the West. Okay? In this way...
Well, Cleveland still managed to steal a championship a couple of years ago.
What about Cleveland? They traded everybody away. They're better now than they were.
I think they are. Definitely better. I think the Celtics, wouldn't you agree, Hawk? No, better than the third best team in the East, right?
Listen.
Are they even that good?
I think we will retain the second overall seed. However, Cleveland will win their first round.
And Toronto, isn't Toronto a pretty good looking team?
Toronto's just got a lot of depth. So guess who we play in the second round? Assuming all 4 top teams win, we're going to be playing Cleveland in the second round.
There's no way I'm predicting Celtics beating LeBron.
The only hope we have is Gordon Hayward returning. And it's hard to put too much...
But I'm still puzzled by the Celtics. This is a team that won, 16 straight games?
They lost their first game of the season. That's when Hayward went down with...
Or maybe even first 2. I think they might have lost their first 2.
Yeah.
But I'm just concerned. What has happened to this? They've been playing defense. They've been getting shredded.
Yeah,
it's just kind of a puzzling year to me.
And again, Smart is back Friday night. I think they're playing Blake Griffin and the Detroit Pistons, so that'll be a good test.
We've talked about Isaiah. What about Isaiah?
Oh, thank you.
Talk about going from the top of the...
Boy, he's really...
he's gone.
His quote last July is the Celtics, jokingly,
time for the Celtics to pay up. Right.
So he was expecting a max of $30 million.
30 mil?
And he was politely a canister in that Cleveland Cavalier. If you ever want to have a poster child for the expression of addition by subtraction, Isaiah Thomas is it. I just think he stained himself so badly here that he'll be lucky to get $15 million from anybody.
I could probably live on that, but
it'd be tough.
His star has fallen big time.
I know this is old news. For whatever reason, we didn't talk about it. The Malcolm Butler situation. I
think I know
I've always said, in Bill Belichick I trust, he must have did something so erroneously bad that he had to show his team, you cannot get away with this.
You think?
Because
it might have cost him another Super Bowl.
The verdict was, didn't you just penalize your team by penalize Butler? But of course, we got no information here what Butler might have done.
Probably never will. The last thing I heard was Devin McCourty saying, we knew a week before the game that he wasn't going to play, but
really, I didn't hear that.
I don't think he elaborated on why. Some of the Boston writers saying, hey, come on, Belichick, you got to own up about this. Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, he's not
Don't hold your breath.
Yeah.
I bet if we haven't heard anything now, but we'll never hear anything.
I agree. He is a free agent.
I wonder what in the heck Because he's not a bad player.
No.
Well, geez, he only won the Super Bowl for him a couple of years ago.
Here is what I think is going to happen. He's a free agent. He's going to keep his mouth shut. Then when he signs that big contract, then he'll probably open up a little bit. So I do have a question. We all know there's a dearth of good quarterbacks in the NFL. We know Jimmy Garoppolo went 2-0 starting with the Patriots, I believe, last year.
They're like 1.5-0, but yeah, I hear you.
He went 5-0 the last 5 games with the Niners, so he has a 7-0 record.
And got himself a $140 million contract.
Got himself a few bucks.
$137.5 million. David, his first year, he is guaranteed $42.6. Okay.
What's he guaranteed overall? Like 70 or something out of that?
Yeah, 70, 80 million. Is his resume that good, or is it a basic economics 101, the law of supply and demand?
I think it's a little of both, but probably more of the latter.
Well, he's been in the right place at the right time. Yeah. Plus, he happened to be a free agent.
And Brady's understudy, not a bad guy to be.
And I will say, A, he's a good-looking guy. Yeah. B, he's very well spoken.
It doesn't hurt.
He just carries himself so well.
But yeah, no, San Fran might be going out on a bit of a limb, but as we say, with no quarterbacks around there, why not?
Well, I was reading that the Jets give
Kirk Cousins
$60
million guaranteed his first
1 year.
And meanwhile, what about Nick Foles? What do you have him sit on the bench?
He's going to be a free agent too, isn't he?
He is.
He's got one more.
He's got one more year.
He's got one more year.
But you know what?
Can't they get? Can't they trade him for? Some people are saying, hey, they should get 2 first-round picks for him.
No. He does not have a good resume.
He doesn't. He looked pretty good in the Super Bowl.
He did not play good with the St. Louis Rams.
Okay,
but he had a
The Rams stink.
He had a great end of the season with the Eagles.
But they're better now. They've got a good coach.
I'm not taking Foles as a great guy. He played unbelievable.
But you just wouldn't go too overboard with that.
David Handy could have played behind that line. Philadelphia.
Oh, I don't know about
that.
He made some good plays.
LeBron could play with us and win a championship.
How many sacks?
LeBron could play with us.
Yeah. How many sacks did the Patriots have on the Eagles? 0.
Nothing, right?
How many touches? It was unmolested.
And they still obviously could have won the game.
You got guys on the market like Case Keenum, who had a really nice year with the Vikings. He was the starting quarterback last year for the LA Rams. Did not play very well. So,
but if you're the Eagles, do you keep Nick Foles, or do you try to?
I would try to get something for him.
Well,
you don't want to keep him on the bench.
You got to think they could get something.
I would think they might. Well,
can't they get what the Pats got for Jimmy G? They wouldn't get a second round
because Jimmy G had no warts on him. We've seen Nick Foles warts.
All I've seen from Nick Foles
is older too, isn't he?
About close to 30, yeah.
All I've seen from Nick Foles is beating my guys.
Hey, I'll tell you why. He looked good with the Eagles when they used to kill the Giants.
Yeah, and he was that
really
close to retirement too.
He made some of his passes at the Super Bowl.
He was great, unbelievable.
Passes.
He was great. Tom Brady only threw for 505 yards, which might be a record that will be hard to break.
Right.
I think the thing with Foles is what really turned them around was when they switched the offense around to be more friendly to him. I don't know what in the hell they call it. It's run pass option, when Foles, because when Foles was running the same offense that Carson Wentz had, he didn't look that good. But once they tweaked it to the way...
and they ran the ball more with Jay Alai and LeGarrette Blount. The Doug Peterson, their head coach, was brilliant in the way they did.
Adapted on the job.
Exactly. And another issue, the Giants, of course, number 2 pick in the draft. And all winter we've been hearing Josh Rosen, quarterback out of UCLA. The winds are kind of blowing now that Saquon Barkley, the running back out of Penn State, may be the guy. That our eggs will remain in the basket for Eli Manning. If Brady can play till he's 40, 41, Eli's in great health at age 37.
37?
Yeah. And as Leonard Parent would always say, a lot of this hinges on what the new management will see in our 3rd-round pick last year out of Cal with Davis Webb. If they like what they see before the draft, they may say, this kid may be...
I'd love to see him get about 4 beefy, good offensive linemen. They need them.
Yeah, and Nate Soldier from the Patriots left tackle is going to get overpaid. Unfortunately, this is about the worst year ever.
Oh, it sounds like he's gone.
Yeah, quality offensive linemen. It's just so. But if I had it my way,
well, the Giants don't have much cap room either, do they?
Gosh,
I think I was reading 20 million, maybe.
Yeah, but they're going to be making, like, Brandon Marshall won't be around. They'll be cutting him. They'll be making a lot of cuts. So, but the calendar is moving, you guys. It's 1 week left of February. We're going to be into March Madness.
Training games to tomorrow, right? Wow.
Yeah, and again, as I mentioned earlier, the Nats are on MLB TV live against the world champion Houston Astros. So.
That's a good thought. So again, UVM Hoopsters. Yeah, I think a loss maybe didn't hurt them. This is still a very, very good team.
Well, I'm hoping, Duke, that we don't get the 16th seed. I'd like to get a 12th or 13th. Yeah. I don't know if that loss will blemish or tarnish the mystery of UVM basketball.
If they win the conference after this, it's certainly shouldn't too much.
Yeah.
We got some, high school BFA girls basketball, pretty good.
Yeah.
Boys basketball's got a pretty good record. The boys hockey, #1 seed.
Are they really?
Yeah. Right? And the girls hockey is, I think, tied for first.
Yeah.
So
some good sports. Hey, we haven't talked about it once, I don't think. Talking about UVM Hoop, Mr. Koppenrath, how's he faring with the MVU girls?
They've won a couple games, which they hadn't done.
Right, probably.
I haven't heard a thing about
games,
them.
Which is 2 or 3 more games they've won in the last 4 years.
It's going to take a while.
Well, it takes a village.
Yeah. Duke, I do have a question for you. Michigan State is ranked 2nd.
Tom Izzo, the great Tom Izzo.
If they keep moving along on the bracket,
yeah.
How much more focus on the sexual not innuendos? Dr. What was it, Dr.
Nasser?
Larry Nasser?
Yeah, but he was with the gymnastics, so
what's your question?
But there's also been a lot of talk, and I see this on ESPN. They've done a lot of work on this, where basketball players in the past have had sexual things against him.
Oh, I can't believe that.
Imagine that.
And it appears that the athletic department just kind of looked the other way.
But you're wondering how this affects the basketball team in particular?
Michigan State ranked 2nd in the country. Yeah, you're assuming that they're going to move along the bracket here.
Yeah,
I don't think.
But what's your question?
I just think Izzo is going to get to a lot more heated questions as we go.
He's not. I don't think he's talking. I think he's already said what he's going to say. And
I think after basketball season that there are going to be a lot of heads rolling. Of course, the president of Michigan State, she quit about a month ago.
The athletic director's gone too.
Izzo's. He's like almost Coach K-like there.
Pretty close getting burnt down. I mean, that's how bad things are.
I think Izzo is fine.
But you follow college basketball. I mean, Virginia,
not as much as you.
Well, I read every day the Detroit News.
Okay.
And
so
this
guy's way ahead of me.
They've had a lot of.
I think Izzo's okay.
They've had a lot of stuff on Michigan State, but Izzo.
He's so well regarded, unless there's something so flagrant or something.
And just a general question: Virginia's #1 in the country. Are they that much better than everyone else, or is this kind of an even playing field?
And Villanova's #1, lost a couple games. Yeah. Virginia lost at home to Virginia Tech, and the Dukies had faded away. They're back.
Well,
I think they're the top 10 teams. There's not a huge difference there.
If I'm going to give Coach K a tip, if he can move his head right or left, look down the bench and put some subs in, and give his starters a couple minutes breather, Duke could go a long way.
His hand's been forced in a way. Bagley hasn't played in the last 3 years. I don't know if he's playing right now. So he's been forced to use his bench a little more.
Yeah.
But no, that's all. You've heard me talk about that for years. That's always an issue for me. But they're finally playing some defense with some zone. So, no, I think they might be a legitimate contender end of the season.
Yeah.
They got a big North Carolina game at Duke is coming up in the not too distant, that's next week. And we're getting March Madness is not far away.
So the conference playoffs, I believe, begin the first weekend
conference,
of March.
Yeah, I mean, next week they'll wrap up conference
Yeah.
play, and that following 2 weekends hence, I think, your conference tournaments.
Yeah.
First weekend in March for a lot of the tournament, a lot of the conferences.
Yeah. So,
Anyway.
are we 1 minute,
Elizabeth, can we leave
30
our clock
seconds.
30 seconds?
Is that
Yeah.
30 seconds?
Right there.
Yeah.
I guess we're good.
So that will wrap up this edition of the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County. For Elizabeth, David, the Duke, I'm the Nighthawk, and until next week, everyone, remember, you do not have to be a great athlete to be a good sport. Till next week, ciao for now.